That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we're going to go through and talk about some waiver wire wide receivers. Now, we already got out our waiver wire running back video, so of course you can find that on the channel. And we are going to continue to upload videos every single day and live stream every single night. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. I promise you this is going to be by far and away the best place to get all your questions answered, to go through, do your research for 2021, because if you can't tell by the amount of times that we upload throughout the day, by the amount of hours that we spend live streaming every single night, this is my entire life. There's literally nothing that I do outside of fantasy football and trying to get you to win your leagues in 2021. That's why I've gone down and I've answered thousands of comments already, answering your start sit questions, answering your trade questions, answering your waiver wire questions. Please make sure you're continuing to leave those down in the comment section. I'll answer as many as I can. But what I need from y'all is I am one person and one person only. We are all a part of the flock. So please make sure you're helping other people out. Make sure, even if you don't have your own question, go down to the comment section. As you watch the video, just sit there on your phone, listen to the audio, and answer 20, 30 comments with their questions and give them your answer, because if every comment down there has 5 different answers, we can work together and crush this season. Because if this video gets 10,000 views, I'm 100% not the smartest person in this group. There has to be a significant amount of y'all that are way better at fantasy football than I am just by understanding numbers. So go out, help someone else, a part of the flock. We're all in this community together. And yeah, let's go through and let's talk about some of these waiver wire wide receivers. We're going to sort this by how many leagues that they are in, with the highest owned guys at the very top, and then we'll go deeper and deeper down. And let's start it off with a Mike Williams, who is currently owned in about 59% of leagues. So Mike Williams, not going to be someone that everybody can pick up. I mean, if you're playing in a 12-man format, Mike Williams probably not available to you. I'd be very surprised if he was on the waiver wire. He would have to be in a situation where your league mates don't necessarily know what they are doing. But if you're playing in a 10-man league or 100% in an 8-man league, Mike Williams is going to be an extremely appealing option. Now, I will admit, while I liked Mike Williams in drafts, I was telling people to avoid starting Mike Williams in week 1 because the matchup was going to be very tough against Washington. You did not want to be going up against the Washington football defense. I mean, this was going to be a spot where you actually had it as possibly the best defense in the NFL, and really avoiding that situation where we can makes a lot of sense, especially with the wide receiver like Mike Williams, because we know that he is going to be that deeper field option. He's going to have a significantly higher average depth of target than what Keenan Allen has. And with Keenan Allen, we kind of identified him as someone that's manning more so the targets closer to the line of scrimmage. He's more so going to be the wide receiver that's generating separation and finding gaps in the zone. And that's how he's going to rack up a ton of points, where Mike Williams has to beat his guy. And most importantly, Justin Herbert has to have time in the pocket to allow Mike Williams to put on that double move, to just get to a spot where he can make that one-on-one contested catch 30 yards down the field, where that's not going to be the easiest thing to do against a very tough defense. But it does not matter. It does not matter that they're going up against Washington. Mike Williams, 12 targets this week. We know that chasing opportunity, chasing the target share is the number one thing you need to be doing on a weekly standpoint in fantasy football. Mike Williams, 12 targets. That is ridiculous. And with those 12 targets, he was incredibly efficient at the same time. He had 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown to go along with it. I mean, this is kind of what we should expect. I think that most people probably underrated Mike Williams just slightly in their drafts. I mean, with Mike Williams, this is someone that he is playing in an offense where the offensive line got significantly better. They get Corey Lindsey. I believe that's the center's name out of Green Bay. If I just misremembered, please don't kill me. I'm not an expert with offensive linemen. They also get Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern in the top 15 picks in the NFL draft, a player that most people thought were going to be off the board by like pick 6 or pick 7. So they make 2 significant additions to this offensive line. A lot of people had them as the most improved offensive line this season. You're starting to already see that come together. Now, I know it's not like the offensive line looked like an elite unit in week 1, but we have to keep in mind, I mean, Washington has an argument to be made to have the best defensive line in the NFL. for the overall Los Angeles Chargers offense to be able to continue to put up points as they did, to be able to go out there and just put up a very impressive showing in week 1. I think this is just the beginning. They're going to have a lot of matchups. I mean, think about them against the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be a spot where I think you could see a full-blown shootout between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs defense won't be anything close to what you actually had with the Washington football team, where maybe you have Mike Williams with that 12 targets per game that, I mean, he is currently averaging. Of course, it's only 1 week, but if he's still getting anywhere close to that volume, you could see the efficiency spike up as well. And we know that he's that big-bodied wide receiver, so I'm unsure if the touchdowns are going anywhere. Love getting Mike Williams. And another wide receiver that's not available in that many leagues before we get down to the deeper guys is going to be Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle right now is rostered in about 58% of leagues. So another option. If you're playing in that 12-man league, I'm sorry, you're not going to have option to Jalen Waddle. But I think that covering these guys is going to be useful for anybody playing in that 10-man format where it's a little more shallow. And with Jalen Waddle, I am going to be hesitant to start him right away because we have to address the elephant in the room, and that's Will Fuller is coming back. Will Fuller will be coming back in week 2. He had to serve that 1-game suspension for PEDs last year. But if you just looked at the connection that Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa had, I mean, I was very impressed by this, where we were on record and saying I was not wanting to start Jalen Waddle. I wasn't wanting to start Jamar Chase. I wasn't wanting to start Devontae Smith as those rookie wide receivers, in my opinion. I mean, it's going to be very hard to go through and assume that anybody is going to take that role and produce right away their first game in the NFL, where, I mean, you had Jalen Waddle as an extremely intriguing play and an extremely impressive option where he does come in and he plays almost every snap, and he gets 6 targets, 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown to go along with it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that everybody has seen some Jalen Waddle highlights so far from week 1 and have seen exactly how impressive he did look while he was out there on the field. And with Jalen Waddle in this scenario, I think that what the play is you're going to be picking him up, not to play him this week. You're going to be picking him up potentially for a breakout later on in the season, because we know both Devontae Parker and Will Fuller, they are not necessarily picture perfect health. I mean, you could see Will Fuller missing time. You could see Devontae Parker missing time. Then you'll have a clear opportunity to plug and play Jalen Waddle, or maybe just Jalen Waddle does end up taking the job away from one of those players. Yes, he should be on 3 wide receiver sets regardless. Unsure if we can play him at least until we see a week of production with both Will Fuller, Devontae Parker going to be active in the game alongside Jalen Waddle. I think that will give us a greater understanding of what we can expect as a baseline in this situation. But still, Waddle is going to be an option that you have to pick up. I mean, clearly he demonstrated the talent is there, and clearly Tua Tagovailoa already has that built-in chemistry from Alabama. Now, our next wide receiver is going to be someone who also had a ridiculous amount of targets. I will say that his quarterback had over 50 passing attempts, but this is Cole Beasley. And with Cole Beasley here, you're looking at him as an option that just came away with 13 targets in week 1. Now with Beasley, of course, he's that slot wide receiver. You're never going to be expecting him to come out and be incredibly efficient with his targets, but still he actually came out and had 8 receptions and 60 receiving yards. Now I think that this is, I don't want to say safe to project every single week, but it is going to be understandable on how he could hit this mark, because you look at Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis, I will be the first one to admit, I thought that Gabriel Davis was going to have a slightly larger role. And yes, Gabriel Davis does come away with the touchdown, which 100% boosts his own fantasy value. But if you're looking at the target distribution on what you had in this offense, it was Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and then a pretty significant drop down from there. So it looks like Beasley is probably winning the wide receiver 2 job here from Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis. And what we really need to focus in on is, while yes, you did have Josh Allen just struggling overall against this Pittsburgh Steelers team, this is one of the better defenses in the NFL. And to go along with this is a situation where Josh Allen is going to be regularly throwing for 40 plus pass attempts a game. We have seen time and time again, the Bills do not want to run the ball. They're going to throw it until Josh Allen's arm falls off. So I think in this scenario, if Cole Beasley is going to be that consistent wide receiver 2, he is someone that you can plug and play, especially once we get to the bye weeks, especially when we know that these players are dropping like flies. So yeah, we're going to go and we're going to be aggressive about going and trying to target Cole Beasley. Now, our next guy is going to be Jacoby Myers. And here, Jacoby Myers, just going back to the fact that we are chasing these players that are going to be getting a significant amount of targets in their offense. Now, I'm surprised to see that Jacoby Myers is only rostered in 15% of leagues. I have no idea how this is the case. So I'm assuming the majority of y'all in 12-man formats actually have the option to go and pick up Jacoby Myers, which I would urge you to go do, because Mac Jones, we have to keep in mind, this was his first week starting. And while, yes, Mac Jones did not look that impressive, go look at Trevor Lawrence. Go look at Zach Wilson. Go look at how they did. I mean, Justin Fields and Trey Lance really didn't even get a fair shot in week one. So Mac Jones, I would make the argument, was the most impressive rookie quarterback week one against the Miami Dolphins. And this should be a spot where he can continue to improve. And with Mac Jones, he, in my opinion, clearly looked at Jacoby Myers as his wide receiver one on this team. Jacoby Myers comes away with 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 44 yards. And we have to remember back to 2020, Jacoby Myers was a wide receiver that was getting significant usage from Cam Newton in this offense, where you were consistently seeing that Cam Newton was willing to look in the direction of Myers, while Cam wasn't necessarily a guy that was going to provide consistent production, because we know Cam Newton's going to vulture away so many of the goal line touchdowns himself. We know Cam Newton's also going to limit the overall passing volume that you could expect in an offense. Mac Jones is the exact opposite. Mac Jones is that prototypical pocket passing quarterback where you should expect that his receiving options can provide value in fantasy. Whereas, trust me, I understand Nelson Aguilar is the guy that goes out there and he actually scores more points this week with the touchdown. We have to understand a couple things here. A, what is more predictive of future fantasy points? Is it more predictive to see the player who has slightly less targets, but he comes away with the touchdown and he has more overall fantasy points? Or is it more predictive to go with the guy who had a larger overall workload? And we have seen both of these wide receivers in their own respective situations look impressive before. I prefer to go with the guy that had the overall larger workload 10 times out of 10 compared to the guy that had slightly less targets but came away with the touchdown. We have discussed this over and over and over again, and there are a million studies shown that this really leads back to the most important thing in fantasy is going to be chasing that volume, chasing those targets for those wide receivers. Whereas touchdowns and overall fantasy points, that efficiency is going to go up and down as we go through the weeks. I mean, we know those touchdowns, they're just going to be kind of like a sine wave. They're going to be up and down, where that volume is going to be consistent, and that volume is going to dictate how many weeks you're actually going to see that spike week from a touchdown or two in that performance. Go back to Cooper Kupp being the perfect example, where Cooper Kupp was actually that guy that had a lot of targets in 2020. The touchdown volatility hit him in the positive direction in 2019 and in 2018, but in 2020 he had very poor touchdown numbers, but that's already seeing to regress in 2021 with Matthew Stafford. So fade the touchdown, fade just the overall fantasy points. I know a lot of people are going to be looking at those and go, okay, Mason, don't we want to go Nelson Aguilar here? No, go with the wide receiver one in the offense, which is going to be Jacoby Myers. And discussing just fading the guy who got the touchdown, fading the overall fantasy points, let's go to our deep dive pickup for the week. Let's go to KJ Hamler. Here with KJ Hamler, who was someone that we loved before the preseason. And with Hamler, I was saying this is a situation where we need to understand that while, yes, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton are extremely talented, we were not drafting either Jerry Jeudy or Courtland Sutton. I mean, kind of feels bad to go out with Jerry Jeudy this way with a high ankle sprain. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy going to be out a significant amount of time. At least it's a better than a break. But still, we were not drafting either one of those options because Noah Fant, a very good receiving tight end. I mean, also Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, great wide receivers in their own right, and that the target share was going to be so spread out through this entire offense without the overall offensive production being at elite levels. It was going to be very hard to see anybody come out and put up top end fantasy numbers. So I didn't like Jerry Jeudy. I didn't like Courtland Sutton. A big reason is KJ Hamler is a damn talented wide receiver. He was the youngest wide receiver in the NFL draft in 2020. He came out, and while yes, he wasn't that impressive, neither was Jerry Jeudy his rookie season. And a lot of people just want to naturally write off Jerry Jeudy because the situation was so bad, where KJ Hamler was the second round draft pick in that same class with Jerry Jeudy. I think that Hamler is the guy that you want in this offense over Tim Patrick. I understand Tim Patrick gets the touchdown, but you actually have KJ Hamler going out getting 4 targets, 3 receptions for 41 yards this week. Keep in mind, we also saw Hamler blow up in the preseason as well with some long in touchdowns. Now, Hamler's not someone we can go out there and start right away. And I actually think that Drew Lock may be better for KJ Hamler, given the fact that he is that field stretching wide receiver that wins based off his speed, rather than what you actually have with him creating separation and just making sure that it's going to be an easy throw for a game managing quarterback. So maybe we like Drew Lock slightly more, but I think between Patrick and KJ Hamler, like if you were saying, Mason, you're going to bet $500, who scores more points this season between Tim Patrick or KJ Hamler? Maybe I put that $500 on Tim Patrick. It's like going to be razor thin. I think it's 50-50 on who scores more points. But if we're talking about who has the better 90th percentile outcome, who, if they hit their ceiling, they could be a fantasy league winner for you, Tim Patrick doesn't even have that in his range of outcomes. We've already seen Tim Patrick over a multitude of seasons. Tim Patrick's ceiling is going to be capped, where based on the college profile that KJ Hamler had coming out of Penn State, based on the limited role that we have seen him in so far, finding success at a young age, I think Hamler does have it in his range of outcomes where we could see him come out and eventually turn in to that league winning wide receiver. So KJ Hamler is going to be my pickup based on the upside that he possesses. I love the talent, love that he's going into year 2. You could easily see just that elite level jump up. Maybe you just pick him up and play him during the bye weeks whenever Jerry Jeudy is out. And then whenever we actually get back to a situation where Jerry Jeudy is playing for the Denver Broncos, then we can go through, then we can cut KJ Hamler. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, leave any comments with any questions that you have. You know, we'll be live streaming every single night as well. So I really hope to see you in the live stream. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Have a great day. Thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon. We got some new members in MCGC, Brian, Matthew, Craig, Ian, Woody, Colt, Marcus, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, my dudes.